When Ozzie Guillen, 1985 Rookie of the Year, AL Manager of the Year, and Venezuelan native, was asked about Roberto Clemente, he said, "He is the Jackie Robinson of Latin baseball. He lived racism. He was a man who was happy to be not only Puerto Rican, but Latin American. He let people know that, and that is something that is very important for all of us." Throughout the 1940s and 50s, Major League Baseball was only semi-tolerant to Latino ballplayers. This changed when Roberto Clemente entered the MLB. He was one of the most important athletes of his era, and he single-handedly changed the way that Latinos and Hispanics are seen in baseball. Baseball players, awards, and foundations have all been created in honor of Roberto Clemente and his game-changing career that still inspires people to this day. Roberto Clemente was born on August 18, 1934, in Carolina, Puerto Rico. Growing up, he was an athletic young man, being especially talented in the javelin, which some say was the reason he had a great throwing arm. But as Clemente said himself, quote, "I am convinced that God wanted me to be a baseball player. I was born to play baseball," end quote. There was never a doubt in his mind that he was going to be a great baseball player. Now, Roberto Clemente was not the first Latino baseball player to make it into the major leagues. That honor would go to Lou Castro of Colombia, who played 42 games with the Philadelphia Athletics in 1902. Though Castro was the first, his presence didn't really change anything in terms of how Latin Americans and Hispanics are seen in baseball. There would be others after him, especially in the 1930s with the surge of Cuban athletes coming into the majors. One of these being the well-known Minnie Meñoso. Meñoso went through adversity similar to what Clemente went through, since he was refused the ability to play in the MLB until Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. Even with this though, Hispanic athletes seemed to be nothing more than an afterthought to most. This was something that Roberto Clemente was ready to change for good. Clemente wasn't clueless though. He knew that if he wanted to make the majors, it was going to take a lot of persistence, and he would most definitely face adversity. With Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier of the MLB, the door of opportunities seemed to be wide open. Yet, this wasn't necessarily the case. Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier was a great step in the right direction for the tolerance of minorities. But the only way that someone like Clemente was going to make it to the major leagues was if he proved that he was better than the best. A Rule 5 draft is a draft which is held for teams that are in need of players. They draft players from other MLB teams' minor league affiliates. Roberto Clemente was drafted this way by the Pittsburgh Pirates from the Dodgers farm team in Montreal. Clemente wasn't meant to be anything more than a player filling in the roster in Pittsburgh. This, however, couldn't be further from the truth. With his incredible talent and skill, Clemente shocked not only his teammates and coaches, but also the fans. Les Betterman, a local journalist, said in an article on June 29, 1955, "The Pittsburgh fans have fallen in love with his spectacular fielding and deadly right arm." The Pittsburgh faithful were embracing the Puerto Rican, and his play was undeniable. Les Betterman also said, "Although he has only a working knowledge of English and speaks with some difficulty, Clemente has no trouble playing the national game." Even though the Clemente love was evident, there were still those who were against him. Longtime teammate of Roberto Clemente, Bill Mazeroski, once said, quote, "Writers who don't speak 3 words of Spanish try to make him look silly, but he's an intelligent man who knows people and knows the game." Orlando Piruchin Cepeda, who made his MLB debut only 4 years after Roberto Clemente, relives some of the adversity Latino baseball players went through at the time in this exclusive interview.
I played with Roberto in Puerto Rico. Then I came to the state. So when I came to the state, I knew what to expect. But I went through a lot of adversity, the language barrier, I can communicate with my manager. I can communicate with my teammates.
Contra la pared del César, como él lo quería, limpio completamente.
12 Golden Gloves, 2-time World Series champion, NL MVP, World Series MVP, and best of them all, 3,000 hits. With a career full of accolades, Clemente was definitely one of the best players of his time. Even with all of this, Roberto Clemente would meet a tragic end when he died in a plane crash on December 31st, 1972, trying to aid those in Nicaragua who had recently suffered an earthquake. Despite this tragic fate, his presence in the Latin American baseball community is still felt to this day. Roberto Clemente's impact on the game of baseball is something that is undeniable, and one of the best examples of this is how he made it into the Hall of Fame. Usually, to enter the Hall of Fame, a player would have to wait 5 years until he is eligible to be voted in by the Baseball Writers Association of America, or BBWAA. However, this was not the case for Clemente. BBWAA's president at the time, Joe Healing, said, "We feel that Clemente, like Sandy Koufax and Stan Musial, would be a first ballot inductee. So, why wait?" In 1973, Clemente made Hall of Fame history by being the first Latino baseball player to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and one of the fastest to be inducted. Not only is Roberto Clemente's impact felt by the higher-ups of the MLB, but also by the players who have been inspired by the Latin superstar. Albert Pujols, Rookie of the Year, World Series champion, and Dominican recipient of the Roberto Clemente Award, had this to say about how the Roberto Clemente Award compares to his other accolades.
It's pretty special, because at the end of the day, it's, what Roberto Clemente means to all the Latin America. He's kind of like, for us, the Babe Ruth, the Jackie Robinson. It doesn't matter where you come from, Venezuela, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Dominican, Cuba, it doesn't matter.
Roberto Clemente is remembered by something as simple as his number. The Bull 21 is an icon for all Latin American baseball players. Not only is his number respected in an unwritten sense, but there are also people trying to get his number retired throughout the entire MLB, just like Jackie Robinson. Commissioner Rob Manfred, who is in favor of retiring Clemente's number, said, "His body of work speaks volumes. So I do think, as Jackie Robinson represents greatness in baseball and so much more, so does Roberto Clemente, particularly for Latinos all across the world." Even the late Mini Miñoso gives credit to Roberto Clemente for the baseball that we have today and how the game has developed for Latino players.
Hay más ligas menores, hay más oportunidades ahora que antes para la juventud.
Roberto Clemente is an incredible example of what can be accomplished if you believe in God and in yourself. From Carolina, Puerto Rico, then to a team in Pittsburgh who picked him just to fill in the roster, to now being an icon for baseball fans, players, and executives alike. Roberto Clemente is Latin American baseball, and no one can ever change that. As the late philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "What stands in the way becomes the way."